Welcome, Ladles and Jelly Spoons, to Kohigh Mathy's YouTube channel, putting a very British twist into the cocktail that is retro video games. On this month's retrospective review, in Music to Remember, Mr. B will be performing music by... At last I forgot. But later, music comes from the new health food nightclub, the Senacotta Go-Go. But meanwhile, for those of you who are more easily pleased, here is 20 minutes of Reach Me Down Tat with this month's retrospective review. This August, we are looking at another early 2001 Capcom classic, Ladles and Jelly Spoons, Devil May Cry.
What's going on down there?
Wake up and smell the action.
Devil May Cry.
Rated M for mature.
Only from Capcom.
But before we start learning about Devil May Cry, here, as always, are the answers to last month's quiz. Now, question 1, that was the musical question, and the answer was, of course... But I also would have accepted... But under no account would I have accepted... Now, question 2, that was the Who Am I question, and the answer was, of course, Kohigh Mathy, and not, as Miss Samantha Hogsbottom of Guildford said, Miss Samantha Hogsbottom. Now, the answer to question 3, that was in 3 parts, and they were as follows: over the top, under the arm, and halfway up the Edgware Road. Now, to be educational and serious for a moment, fat chance of that. Devil May Cry.
Devil May Cry.
An action-adventure video game developed by Capcom Production Studio 4 and published by Capcom for the PlayStation 2. August 2021 marks its 20th anniversary. Devil May Cry received a lot of coverage in the video game media due to the impact that it had on the action genre due to its high difficulty and the high overall scores given to it by reviewers. The game has sold more than 3 million copies, spawned multiple sequels and a prequel, and it is considered to be one of the greatest video games of all time. It should come as no surprise then that Devil May Cry features in the book 1001 Video Games You Should Play Before You Die by Tony Mott. Set in the present day on a fictional landmass called Mallet Island, the game's story focuses on Dante, a demon hunter who uses his business to carry out a lifelong vendetta against all demons. He meets a woman named Trish who takes him on a journey to defeat the demon lord Mundus, who is responsible for the deaths of Dante's brother and mother. The game is very loosely based on the Italian poem Divine Comedy by use of allusions, including the game's protagonist Dante, named after Dante Alighieri, and the other characters like Trish, Beatrice Portinari, and Virgil. The game was originally conceived by Capcom developers as Resident Evil 4. Due to the staff feeling that it would not fit into the Resident Evil franchise, the project became its own title.
Now, get ready for the Power Awakening.
First hinted at in early December 1999, Devil May Cry started its life as the earliest incarnation of Resident Evil 4.
Jill Sandwich.
After the completion and success of Resident Evil 2 back in 1998,
Umbrella.
Hideki Kamiya was put in charge of a dev team codenamed Little Devil. A group of staff members within Capcom Production Studio 4 began work on the next Resident Evil game. Kamiya was chosen for the team at Shinji Mikami's request, and in the early days of what people thought was going to be the next Resident Evil game, the team decided to take a trip to Spain and the UK to examine castles as a basis for the game's environments, photographing things like Gothic statues, bricks and stone pavements for use in textures. It was a huge departure from the existing Resident Evil formula and the survival horror genre.
Whoa, slow down, babe.
Resident Evil regular series writer Noboru Sugimura created a scenario for the title based on the ideas that Kamiya had come up with to make a very cool and stylized action game. The original story was an unravelling mystery surrounding the body of a protagonist, Tony, an invincible man with skills and an intellect exceeding that of normal people. His superhuman abilities explained with Resident Evil's tried and tested MacGuffin, biotechnology. Whilst the team tried to make this new, cool theme fit into the world of Resident Evil, Shinji Mikami felt that the game was starting to stray away from the series' survival horror roots, and over time, Mikami talked the rest of the dev team round into making the game its own intellectual property. Once convinced, Hideki Kamiya rewrote the story and changed it to be set in a world full of demons, drawing from the Italian poet Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy. Kamiya felt that the playable character did not look brave and heroic enough in battles from a fixed angle. He decided to drop the pre-rendered backgrounds from the Resident Evil series and opted for a dynamic camera system. The cast of characters in the game remains largely identical to that in Sugimura's original scenario, although the appearance of the protagonist's mother and father were written out. One of the biggest changes was that of the protagonist Tony, whose name was changed to Dante, although he kept the pseudonym Tony Redgrave as a bit of a nod to the game's Resident Evil origins. Dante's personality was inspired by Cobra from Buchi Terasawa's manga of the same name. Kamiya also saw Dante as a long coat wearing, showy non-smoker, as Kamiya saw this as cool. Kamiya has also stated he perceives Dante as a character that he would like to go out drinking with. Someone who's not a show-off but would instead pull some ridiculous mischievous joke to endear people to him. Dante wears red because in Japan it is a traditional colour of a heroic figure. Whilst the game had started out as a Resident Evil game, some of the major gameplay elements were inspired by a bug found in another Capcom game, Onimusha Warlords, such as enemies could be kept in the air by slashing them repeatedly, which led to the inclusion of juggling by gunfire and sword strikes. And if you want to see my retrospective review on that, then click the link in the top right hand corner of the screen, or there will be a link in the description down below. With its Resident Evil links well and truly broken and development well underway, the game's new title was released as Devil May Cry in November of 2000. Designed from the ground up around Dante's aerobatics and combat abilities, Devil May Cry also decided to change from the open-ended structure of the Resident Evil games to a mission-based form of advancement. Players had to perform platforming tasks, occasionally solve puzzles, but mainly players must fight numerous enemies to progress through the story. At the end of each mission, the player's performance is graded and given a letter, starting with D, increasing to C, B and A, with the additional top grade of S. The grade the player is given is based on the time taken to complete the mission, item usage, damage taken and the amount of red orbs gathered. Red orbs being the in-game currency obtained by defeating enemies, destroying objects and exploration. The orbs can be used to upgrade and unlock weapon attacks as well as your character upgrades. Lastly, your mission grade is based on how stylish your combat was. Stylish combat is defined as performing an unbroken series of varied attacks whilst avoiding damage, with the player performance tracked by an on-screen gauge. The more the player hits enemies, the higher the gauge rises, starting at dull and working their way up through cool, bravo and absolute, and peaking at stylish, with the added challenge that if the player continues to use the same set of moves, the gauge will stop filling. This was to encourage players to use every move they had unlocked so far with red orbs. The moment that Dante receives damage, the style rating is reset back to dull. Players can also maintain their style gauge by taunting enemies at close range. This was one of the game's hardest elements, and it was entirely intentional, according to Kamiya, who called it his challenge to those who played light casual games. To aid the player in combat, Dante has the ability to temporarily transform into a more powerful demonic version of himself. This ability is called Devil Trigger, and it changes Dante's appearance and adds power based on the current weapon that Dante has equipped. Devil Trigger increases your strength and defense as well as slowly restoring health. It also grants special attacks. The Devil Trigger transformation depletes as the ability is used, and is refilled by attacking enemies or taunting them in normal form. As well as regular combat gameplay, Devil May Cry does contain puzzles and other challenges. Similar to puzzles in the Resident Evil games, the main storyline often requires the player to find key items to advance, as well as optional platforming and exploration tasks to find hidden caches of orbs. There are also secret missions that count as side quests. They are normally hidden or in out of the way areas. Whilst they are not required to finish the game, they do provide permanent power-ups for Dante. The secret missions are normally challenges to solve a puzzle or defeat a group of enemies in a specific manner or within a time limit. Legend has it that 2,000 years ago, in the depths of hell, a demon rebelled against the devil, waging a one-man war in support of the human world. In the present, Dante, a private investigator of the supernatural, realizes that the devil is rallying to rise against mankind. Deep within Dante's blood lies the power of ancient demons, and as his power builds, he transforms into a demon state where he can use his powers against the evil he encounters. Commencing his battle against the demonic legions with just a sword and his twin pistols, Ebony and Ivory, to defeat the devil, Dante must discover special weapons possessing various elemental powers. When channeled correctly, these weapons will allow Dante to call upon demonic energy and defeat the devil. Providing the voice of Dante in the English dub, we have actor and producer Drew Combs, who is known for Devil May Cry, Relic Hunter and Beautiful Joe, Red Hot Rumble. Whilst Combs is said to have enjoyed voicing Dante, he did not return for the sequel. In Japan, Dante is voiced by Toshiyuki Morikawa. Morikawa is best known in Japan for dubbing over many actors in Japanese, such as Tom Cruise, Ewan McGregor, Adam Sandler and Chris O'Donnell. Providing the English voice of Trish is Sarah LaFleur, a Canadian screen and voice actress, most recognisable for her roles in Ugly Betty and The Mentalist. Devil May Cry was her first video game voice role. Sadly though, Trish didn't show up in the games again until Devil May Cry 5, by which time LaFleur had moved on to bigger and better projects. In Japan, Trish is voiced by Asuko Tanaka. Unlike LaFleur, Tanaka did return to voice Trish in Devil May Cry 5. Much like Morikawa, Tanaka is probably best known for being the Japanese dub voice of Lara Croft in the Tomb Raider franchise for 5 games in a row. For those of you old enough to remember the classic and infamous FMV video game Night Trap, she also provided the Japanese voice for Lisa.
Mega? 脅かそうったってダメ。もうバレてるんだから。何よ。あなたたち誰なの？いやよ、来ないで。
Finally, we have David Keeley providing the voice for antagonist Neo Angelo. To the best of my research, in the Japanese version of the game, Neo Angelo doesn't speak and so doesn't have a voice actor in the credits. Keeley has also had roles in Total Recall 2070, The Manchurian Candidate and Warehouse 13.
You're right. I'm his son, Dante. Sweet dreams.
Upon its release, Devil May Cry received critical acclaim. Reviews praised the gameplay innovations, fast-paced action and visuals for the gothic ambience, as well as mentioning the camera controls. Game Informer summarised its review by simply saying it makes Resident Evil look like a slow zombie. But for all its high praise and critical acclaim, Devil May Cry was also subject to some criticism. Next Generation objected to the difficulty level and wondered if the challenge was added to prolong gameplay. Some questioned the learning curve for the controls, as well as their unusual layout on the PlayStation 2's DualShock controller, as well as the lack of configuration options in the game itself. Whilst for the most part the camera controls were praised, some at the time did cite the camera's behaviour. They also scored the game down for flickering and jagged graphics at certain points in the game. Lastly, game critics felt that the story was overly short and that the characters were underdeveloped. With all that said, Devil May Cry continues to this day to frequent top video games of all time lists. Dante also received noteworthy praise to the point of becoming one of the most famous characters in gaming. In 2001, Devil May Cry was nominated for GameSpot's annual Best Action Adventure Game Award amongst console games, but it just lost out at the last minute to Grand Theft Auto 3.
You know what, lad? That game is getting mentioned a few too many times this year, but it does give me an idea. I'll be back.
Devil May Cry did receive a Gold Sales Award, however, from the Entertainment and Leisure Software Publishing Association, ELSPA, indicating sales of at least 200,000 copies in the United Kingdom as of 2006. Devil May Cry has sold 1.1 million copies and earned $38 million in the United States alone. Next Generation has ranked it as the 48th highest selling game launched for the PlayStation 2, Xbox or GameCube between January 2000 and July 2006. The success of Devil May Cry meant that sequels were sure to follow, and Devil May Cry 2 was released in 2003. Then, in 2005, Devil May Cry 3 Dante's Awakening hit the shelves, both of which have sold more than 2 million copies. Devil May Cry 4 was released in February 2008, and whilst there were rumours of not only a PSP game releasing, but there was also the possibility the game was being made into a live-action film after the success of the anime series that was released in 2004. However, in 2009 the PSP installment in the series was cancelled, and we wouldn't see a return to the series until 2013 with a reboot simply called DMC Devil May Cry from developers Capcom and Ninja Theory. The reboot has the fan base split. Some really like the new look Dante and the new more contemporary story, others hate it. At the time, Hideki Kamiya was developing his new project Bayonetta, but did say in 2017 that he would be interested in going back to the original Devil May Cry canon and working on a 5th installment. Devil May Cry 5 was released in March 2019 to glorious praise from critics and fans of both the original series of games and the Ninja Theory reboot. Whilst all this was going on with the video game though, there were still rumours of a live action adaptation. Screen Gems, who made the Resident Evil series of films, had purchased the rights to make a Devil May Cry film, and writer Kyle Ward was hired to write the screenplay. The last we heard is that the script was based on Ninja Theory's DMC Devil May Cry reboot, but since 2013 no news has emerged about the project's status.
So, do you remember that when we looked at the Tenchu games,
It's Goda and Shinsei! Like some kind of 70s detective drama.
I told you that they made a play based on Tenchu? Well, guess what?
Capcom produced Sengoku Barasa vs Devil May Cry, a stage amalgam of the Devil May Cry and Sengoku Barasa series in the August of 2015. In the play, Dante, Trish, Lady and Virgil encounter a mysterious historical ruin whilst chasing a devil and are sent back in time to Japan's Warring State period. There they meet Date, Masamune, Saneda Yukimura and other characters from the Sengoku Barasa franchise. The play ran at the AIIA 2.5 Theatre in Tokyo for 18 performances.
ダンテ様ご一行異世界一泊二日の旅始まりってな。
There is a version of it on YouTube if you care to look. We might have put a link in description if you'd like to watch it, you know what I'm saying? Not only that, they also made a musical.
Devil May Cry The Live Hacker, a musical that ran for 13 performances in March 2019 at the Zap Diver City in Tokyo. Jun Yuriko wrote and directed the musical and its video, and a DVD was released in late August of that year.
Sadly though, that doesn't seem to be on the old YouTube, so you might just have to fork out for it on DVD. It'll only put you back, I'll go there. How much? This best be in yen.
Whilst we're on the subject of music, there was a theme song of sorts composed for Devil May Cry. Called The Seed of Love, it can be heard during the game's ending credits. It was composed by Masami Ueda and performed by Japanese singer Juliet, although I believe that to be a studio name as I could find very little on her or indeed it. The rest of Devil May Cry's soundtrack leans in a very techno heavy metal direction. You can find it easily enough on YouTube, but I certainly can't recommend listening to it outside of the game itself. Even the theme song Seeds of Love is a bit on the weak side. I certainly found it very hard to listen to. Devil May Cry has been cited as the first game in the subgenre of action games called Extreme Combat, where the focus is on a very powerful protagonist fighting hordes of enemies. Back in 2001, the game was described as successfully capturing the twitch-based, relentlessly free-flowing gameplay styles of so many classic 2D action games. Indeed, even today the Devil May Cry series is the benchmark to which all other 3D action games are measured against, such as the Western-developed God of War. To admit that I didn't actually complete Devil May Cry until around about 2010, I think it was, as I would always get stuck at certain bits and I would just lose patience and I would stop playing the game. But I think that it speaks a lot to the development and the gameplay that I'd always come back to the game, and I was always genuinely excited when I heard that a new game in the series was due for release. Even after 20 years, people are still discovering this series. The first 3 games have been enhanced and re-released in a HD collection available on PlayStation, PC, Xbox and the Nintendo Switch. I would say that if you're doing a completionist run of Devil May Cry, then you'll be playing the game for probably about 15-16 hours, but a basic playthrough could easily be done in about 6, as long as you don't mind knocking the game down to easy when the game tells you. So have you ever played Devil May Cry? What did you think? Are you new to the series or have you been playing it since back in 2001? As always, I'd love to chat about the game in the comments down below. And whilst you're there, leaving a comment, if you're not already subscribed, then please do so to help us grow our little corner here on YouTube. If you know anybody else that's interested in retro video games and oddball British humour, then be sure to share this video out with them. Now, the Limerick competition. Oh God, man, not another one. When are you gonna learn, Kai? Nobody, and I mean nobody, cares. Look, right, I've got a list of them, yeah? And I'm gonna make my way through it, whether you like it or not. So, here is the winning entry from last month's opening 2 lines. A cockney was pushing his barrow through Battersea streets wide and narrow, and the lolly he made from the tricks of the trade got both of his sons into Harrow. Thank you to whoever it was that sent us that in. Now for this month's limerick, here are the opening 2 lines. A pink spotted thrush from Bengal had a very peculiar call. I'll say that again. A pink spotted thrush from Bengal had a very peculiar call. And to be in with the chance of winning this month's prize, 2 horse brasses and one that isn't, put the following 2 lines in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not, and before I go I will leave you with this. Where do forest rangers go to get away from it all? Cheerio, see you next week.